What's up, guys? Welcome to Knockers on the Bottom. I'm your host, Jay Mill. Jay Miller, if you like. So let's get into it. So today, since it's Friday, we're going to take a look at the Ravens defense, as well as some predictions and pick for the Cowboys Ravens game. So when it comes to this defense, they actually have a pretty solid front seven and a back. If you take a look at the players that I'd be most worried about as the Cowboys, it definitely would be Michael Pierce, the big guy in the middle. He's about 350 pounds. So if we're planning on trying to get our run game going, it's definitely going to be a challenge this week. He plays with a lot of power. He does not get moved. He is just gigantic. So this is going to be one of those types of weeks where I think, like every week this season, but especially this week, it's going to be very hard for the Dallas Cowboys to run the football. Whether it's on the edge, if it's on the edge, Matabike plays really well. Travis Jones plays well. And Roquan Smith is a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. And Calvin Noy can play off the edge as well. So going to have a little bit of trouble there running, whether it's up the middle, whether it's side to side. I actually think the Cowboys will have a chance to attack pretty heavily in the passing game, especially since the Ravens, once again, are not one of those defenses that are going to disguise too much for you. They're going to pretty much line up and show you exactly what they're doing, and it'll be up to the Cowboys to actually be able to get something going. I don't think any of these guys, whether you're talking about Marlon Humphrey or whether you're talking about Brandon Stevens, I don't think any of them can cover CeeDee Lamb in the slot or outside. I actually think this will be the first really big day for CeeDee Lamb, but I'll get more into that when I talk about predictions. So I do think this defense can get pressure, but they don't do well generating pressure, at least not through the first couple of weeks of the season. So if the Cowboys can block it up, Dak Prescott should have time to sit back there and pick them apart. What we can't do is let their power and let their physicality on defense beat us, and that's kind of what the Cowboys tend to, or at least the Cowboys as we know them in the past. They tend to have trouble with a physical offense and a physical defense, and by that I mean if the defensive coordinator wants to line up and play Dak Prescott and try to disguise blitzes and send them from all different places and have different guys dropping into coverage while having other guys coming and blitzing left, right, up the middle, trying to send a linebacker on a blitz, safety on a blitz, corner on a blitz, all that fun stuff, Dak will eat them up. Dak identifies the blitz very well, sets his protections very well, and then gets out the ball very well. But if this defense wants to play us head up and just mean mug our offensive line, and they're pushing Terrence Steele right into Dak Prescott's lap, or they're pushing Guyton right into Dak Prescott's lap, that's going to be where we're going to have the most trouble. So I do think a defense like this definitely has the capability of doing that. What I would think, though, that's going to help that is that I do think our middle three are our best offensive linemen. Therefore, Dak should have a clean middle of the pocket to step up into. Now, I don't know if Pierce is necessarily going to get pushed out of the way and make, a really clean pocket for Dak Prescott to step up into. I think Cooper Beebe has a lot of strength and should be able to anchor and hold his own. But I do think it's going to be a little challenging for some of the edges to hold their gaps. Therefore, Tyler Smith and Zach Martin need to more so create that nice little pocket because Beebe's going to have his hands full trying to move Michael Pierce. So I do think as long as those two other guys, those guards on the left and right of them, can hold their matchups, Dak should have a clean pocket to step up into. And if that's the case, I think they'll give plenty of time for CeeDee Lamb. I also think Jake Ferguson seems like he's going to be back this week. Should also be a big contributor. And then I think from that, then maybe we'll get a chance to get the run game going once the passing game sort of loosens up those guys a little bit. So that's where I think the Cowboys have a chance. to win their matchup. If I'm looking for a player that I will be trying to hunt in the cornerback room to see if I can get the Cowboys to have a consistent matchup to win, I think I'm hunting Marlon Humphrey this season. Even though in years past he's been an anchor, he's been a Pro Bowler, it looks like they've been playing him more in the slot this year, and he kind of looks like he's having trouble covering in the slot this year. And so I think you throw CeeDee Lamb in there, you throw Brandon Cooks in there, and you let them go to work on Marlon Humphrey. And then from there, as the defense starts to adjust and shift, you can start to get some of your other guys involved. I also do think that the tight end, Jake Ferguson, should have a pretty good matchup against these linebackers. I don't think Roquan Smith can necessarily cover Jake Ferguson. If they try to bring a safety down to cover him, I would run Brandon Cooks right up behind him. So I'd line the wide receiver up right behind the tight end. And as soon as that safety comes down to take the tight end over the middle, I'd run Brandon Cooks right behind that on a deep over route and see how the Ravens solve that problem. So the Cowboys have some ways here that they can scheme it up and take advantage of the Baltimore Ravens in the passing game. But yeah, that's what I see as far as matchups are concerned. It's pretty straightforward here. There's not much to talk about as far. I mean, Calvin Noy, he can always have a good game. You know, he used to play for the Patriots, play for the Arizona Cardinals. He can always rush off the edge. But as far as him being a game changer, I don't see it. I really do see that if you let Roquan Smith control the game, if you let, Michael Pierce control the game, and then you let Matabike beat you off the edge, that's where the Ravens are going to have some success. But I think the Cowboys should be able to score more points than they did against New Orleans. Now, we'll see what happens once they get into the red zone. If they end up starting to shoot themselves in the foot over and over again, then that'll be, what'll cause us the most problems. So on to predictions. So I think CeeDee Lamb's going to have a monster game. This game, I think he will go over 100 yards. I think he will have a touchdown, if not a couple of touchdowns. I think he'll have maybe 7 to 10 grabs. I do think it'll be an explosive day for CeeDee Lamb. I think Jake Ferguson will be worked back in a little bit slowly, so I expect them to go more tight end by committee. So I think Ferguson will get the first, share of the reps, but I do expect to see a bit of Luke Schoonmaker as well. And for those two together, I think the tight end position will be, pretty stout as well. Maybe combined 10 or 11 catches, maybe combined 70 to 80 yards, and maybe a score or two. I do expect if we get in the red zone for another prediction, because I do think the Cowboys will be down here, I do expect a rushing touchdown for Dak Prescott. I think that's kind of where they probably will have the chance to do the most damage. Ezekiel Elliott has a nose for the end zone, but these are some big boys up front. So I actually think you might see a little bit of a read option and Dak keep it and go into the end zone for a score, especially since the Cowboys haven't showed that at all this season. I think that might be something that we get a chance to see. So on to predictions. I mean, the Cowboys got their ass kicked last week from the Saints. And I know a couple of days ago in my episode, just to, give a little bit of an overview, I went over the Ravens offense and kind of what we would see there and talked about the Lamar Jackson dynamic and the Flowers and Bateman at the skill positions and also Henry, at the running back. But I don't know if their offensive line is going to be able to hold up to the Cowboys. And I think this presents a little bit different of a challenge than the Saints did, right? The Saints have a lot of movement, a lot of zone, a lot of attacking on the edges, and a lot of getting their guys out in space. That's what gave the Cowboys a lot of problems in the running game. I actually think in this scenario that the Ravens are going to go directly at the Cowboys because I don't believe you can use Henry on the edge. I believe you can use Hill on the edge a little bit, but I actually think the best edge running game that the Ravens are going to have is Lamar Jackson. Kind of getting those tackles and guards pulling and trying to get Lamar Jackson to run quarterback powers and quarterback draws behind that. So if the but I also do think this offensive line is not as good at that as the New Orleans Saints offensive line was. So I do think the Cowboys have a chance to get some stops against the New Orleans Saints. Get some stops. Sorry, against the Baltimore Ravens. Um, but I also do believe the Baltimore Ravens will get a few stops against the Cowboys as well. So for that reason, I think I'm going to go somewhere in the neighborhood of 31-24 Baltimore. I think ultimately the same issues that plagued the Cowboys in the first 2 weeks as far as not being able to score in the red zone, follow them into this game as well. I also think the Ravens are a very desperate team coming off of 2 straight losses and that they're going to be pulling out all the stops this game. They're going to be going pretty hard for that win. And I think the Cowboys just won't have enough to match the energy and the desperation of the Baltimore Ravens. So that's what I got, 31-24 Baltimore. This is the first time this season I've picked the Cowboys to lose. I hope I'm wrong. I hope it's the opposite. And I do think it'll be a better showing than the Saints game, but I think it just won't be enough. So that's what I got for you guys today. Hit the like button if you like it. Subscribe so you know when I'm coming on if you like the show. You can follow me on Twitter at jmillerIYL. That's jmiller if you like. You can also hit me up at knockersonthebottom@outlook.com. Submit any questions, any comments, anything you want me to cover. And, I'll take them anywhere, any platform, and put them together. Make sure I cover it. If there are questions, I'll put them into a mailbag segment, make it a regular thing. But thank you guys for tuning in. We're still almost at 20. We're almost there. So please hit the subscribe. Please hit the like. But until next time, I'm your host, J Miller if you like. This has been Knockers on the Bottom. Peace.